Hey guys, this is for Ceramics 2. This is a tutorial on creating your ceramic ring dishes. The first thing we are going to start with, of course, is a flat slab. You have rolled this on the slab roller or rolled it with a rolling pin if you are working from home. If I've rolled this with the slab roller, I have a lot of texture here from the canvas. I'm going to take my card scraper, a little dirtier than I would like. I'm going to take that scraper and I'm going to smooth out that texture. If your card scraper tool is too crusty, that's probably going to leave some lines. So I've got a little clay here, but I've made sure that this is clean and smooth so I won't get any like weird lines from crusty bits of clay on the edge. All right, so that's nice and smooth. If you want, you can try to smooth out the opposite side. You'll probably have to do a little bit more smoothing of the bottom of your dish either way. I like to do both sides, despite the fact that it's going to get a little bit of canvas texture on the back. I like to have most of it out of the way. All right, so I've got my smooth slab, and I've got my dish. You might be tempted to put this right in, but unless I'm working on my sgraffito or my stencil or another design, I'm going to set this aside for the moment because I am going to be using my clay texture roller. You guys all made one of these or some stamps, and I'm going to use this to create the texture in my slab. So I'm going to press this firmly into the clay. I want to have very soft plastic texture clay. I don't want it to be too dry. I don't want it to be leather hard. I do not want it to be bone dry, that's for sure. We want it this soft plastic state. You're just going to roll until you get all your clay that you're going to use with a nice pattern. It's a little bit hard to see from here. I can adjust the light a little bit. All right, well, you're going to have to trust me that it's patterned. All right, now I'm going to tuck my mold under there and let that slab kind of just set inside. I'm going to trim off a little bit of the excess. I'm using my plastic tool that kind of looks like a knife. You see that? And I can set my scraps to the side. You can save your scraps in a Ziploc bag to use later. A lot of ceramic artists who do hand building talk about how they like that there's no clay wasted because you can reuse all of it. You don't have to get this trimmed perfectly on the first go, especially if you had a relatively large slab. You know, you can cut down a little bit so it's easier to work with first and then get closer to the very edges. All right, so I'm gonna use my fingers to very gently push this in. If you have long fingernails, this might be a little bit difficult. You'll kind of have to maybe use a knuckle. And you want to push really gently because you don't want to destroy that beautiful texture that you just made. All right, so now I'm going to be kind of going around like the edge, sort of even with the mold. One quick note, make sure that your roller has been bisque fired before you try to roll it in your clay. If it's just bone dry clay, you're not going to be happy with the texture results, and you're not going to be happy with what happens to your roller. It's got to get fired. Make sure it's this white color. If it's still gray, get it on the bisque fire shelf so we can get that going. In a separate video, I will talk about sgraffito, and in another video, I will talk about creating paper stencils and using those to create designs on your dishes. And the reason we are doing these dishes to start off with is that creating something from a mold like this is relatively straightforward once you get the hang of it. And then you haven't spent like a ton of time and energy creating this thing, which gives you a little bit more freedom to try different surface design techniques. All right, so now I've got my textured dish. There's some little scrappy bits here. After this dries a little bit more, I'm going to go back in and smooth out these corners. When it dries enough to take it out of the mold, when the clay will come out and still hold its form, I'm also going to smooth out the underside so that there's no sharp edges. Like this would probably not be fun to handle as a fired piece. You want to get all of that smoothing and all of the shaping done when it is greenware, the raw clay. There's very little you can do about it after it's bisque fired, and even less you can do about it after it is glaze fired. So get all those little bits handled before you put it on the shelf to be fired. All right, that concludes this tutorial on creating the dish with your textured roller.